How we doing, everybody, and welcome into Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trag. I'm your host, Trag. It is Tuesday, August 20th, a fantastic Tuesday here in the great state of Wisconsin, or wherever you are tuning in today. I hope it's a fantastic day there, too. The sun is shining. You can't beat it. I got two great people with me today on the show. I got Aaron from Brutally Honest Sports. He's back today. Aaron, how we doing? It's Tuesday. It's a great Tuesday. We're kicking, right? It's a great day.
Getting right through the month of August. It's flying by, but it's good. You know, football right around the corner, baseball going on. Good time of the year. It is a good time of the year, and it is. It's a little cooler here, which I'm okay with it. I'm cool with it.
You can't beat it. You can't beat this time of year. We're getting right back to, sports are going to be taking off like no other pretty soon. We're not going to have enough time to talk about it all. It's going to be craziness. But also on the show here, I got Kyle Edwards from Chompin on the Bit podcast. He's back today. Kyle, how we doing?
I'm good. Look, like Aaron said, it's getting cooler. We're getting closer to fall, which means NFL season, college football season. Then, basketball's right around the corner as well. I love the fall, so I'm here for it.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it. The fall, you get a little fall baseball, you get football starting up, college football's back, the NBA's right around the corner, college basketball's right around the corner. It's like, it's that time of year. Yep. It's the only thing that beats it is March and April, March Madness. You get baseball starting. Like, that's the only time of year that could possibly top it there. So I got the guys with me today. There's lots we want to get into, but I want to talk a lot of NFL. I want to talk MLB today. Right away, I want to look at the NFL. And this is the biggest question I wanted to discuss today. I watched the Packers play the Broncos, and, the Packers look like complete garbage. Like, to take it from Matt LaFleur's exact words were, we need to reevaluate a lot of things right now. And, the second teamers were playing. But it was, I only watched probably 3/4 of it. I couldn't even watch fourth quarter. It was that bad. They scored 2 points in the entire game. They had a safety. That was it on Zach Wilson. Outside of that, it was atrocious. Like, they couldn't tackle. It was, to me, and this is where I want to open it. I want to open it with the meaning of preseason games. That's where I want to open it with. The meaning of preseason games. To me, when I watched that game last night, you still are battling for something. We're watching Sean Clifford, Aaron's alma mater there with Penn State with Sean Clifford. I watched him completely stink. I watched Michael Pratt completely stink. I don't know who's my number 2 quarterback behind Jordan Love. I'm actually scared because if Jordan Love gets hurt, I don't know where the Packers go at this point. And you look at the defense for Green Bay. They looked atrocious. Now, Bo Nix played a really good game, but they looked atrocious against the Broncos. They couldn't tackle. It was just terrible pass cover. Everything was terrible. The offense, nothing was decided all the way around. They had one kick in the entire game. Greg Joseph came in, kicked and missed it. 47 yards, missed it wide right. There's a kicking competition going on in Green Bay right now, and we didn't learn nothing from the second preseason game for that kicking competition either. We don't know what the kicker room is going to look like. It's like they always say, a kicker is like a lawyer. You don't need them until you do, right? You don't want a good one until you need it. And then, well, now we see it. Now we see it right now. The Packers are in desperate need. So I want to start there with the meaning of preseason games. Whoever wants to start. Whoever wants to start with that one. But to you guys, what is the meaning to preseason to you guys? Is it a big deal? Is it not a big deal? Where do you guys lean on that fence there?
I feel like it kind of depends on where your team is. Like, if you were a playoff team the season before, I feel like preseason isn't that big of a deal. It's more about building out your depth. Maybe you have a aging veteran in a certain position that you're hoping maybe a young player maybe comes along and takes their spot possibly. Backup quarterback. I feel like that's important for preseason to make sure you have the right guy behind your starter or your star in the case of Jordan Love. Because if he does go down, and what the aspirations of the Packers have of being a playoff team that goes deep into the playoffs, you can't necessarily use the excuse that Jordan Love goes down for a couple of games as the reason why you missed the playoffs. So you need to have somebody who's ready to jump in for a couple of games and keeps them competitive. I mean, look, Colt McCoy just retired. Maybe you can call him. Like he's been a backup forever. I'm sure that wouldn't make you feel better as a Packers fan, but he's out there. So yeah, I don't really pay attention much to the score and all that of the game. I look more like you said, like if you have a kicking competition going on, then that's what you focus on. Who does the coach put out there for a certain like 45 yarders or a 35 yarder? Do they make it? Do they look good making it, or are they barely squeaking them in? So now you're having a heart attack every time the guy's out there lining up for a kick. Like it's just little things like that I think are more important for preseason play.
I agree. So I'm just kind of speaking out of a Eagles fan's lens. To my knowledge, I mean, I can't speak for every team, but damn near every team plays like their starting quarterback and their number one offense, at least for a drive or two, right? Like I've just heard on the Eagles podcast, like, Jordan Love just got paid, but he's getting he had a drive, right? Like in this game, Jordan Love played the first drive. Is that
He didn't play against the Broncos, no. Little do the Bears fans know, because there was a lot of memes going around where Jordan Love had thrown 3 interceptions. That was the backups. Bears fans are just so far out there at this point that they thought Jordan Love actually played. He did not play. None of the starters actually played against the Broncos. They did play against the Browns the week before.
Right?
They did play.
So, like I said, speaking out of my own vantage point, I hate that the Eagles decide not to do this. I thought with Kellen Moore and a new offense, they brought in a whole new offensive system, much more complex. I mean, everybody says that Jalen Hurts hasn't thrown a pick all camp long. I don't care about. I mean, yeah, I want him to do well, right? But I want to see him go up against, like the Ravens had their number 2 defense. Well, they had half their starters in when they played the Ravens the other week, and then coming off. I mean, Kyle, you saw it. I mean, there were starters here and there on the Patriots, and the Patriots had their number 2 defense in most of that game. And I mean, the Eagles' makeshift offensive line that they put together was absolutely trash. I mean, the Patriots sacked Pickett 3 or 4 times. They sacked they sacked the third string. I can't remember his name off the top. He looked actually better than Pickett. But regardless of that, I think just you talk about spring training in baseball. I think people do underestimate preseason a little bit. If you're like a Jordan Love, right? You're still progress. I'm not saying he's doesn't know what he's doing, but he's so young that every rep to me is meaningful to a guy like Mahomes. Sure, I mean he's proven the guy could come in week 4 and probably win out and go to the Super Bowl. Guys that are just elite, the elite of the elite. I doesn't really matter about preseason, but the Jordan Loves, the Jalen Hurts, the Lamar Jackson, I still think these guys need continuity between the offense and just it's game speed. You can't simulate game. I don't care what they do against their own squad. They know each other so well. You're gonna line up against the Eagles will line up against the Packers in Brazil, and they'll see looks they haven't seen by their own defense probably all year. There'll be stuff that's in it that they'll see that they haven't seen yet, no matter what they prepared for, right? You'll see a different look. You'll see, this is the skies blitz, whatever it is that they can simulate. The Packers will throw something else at them. So getting those reps in a preseason game, even if it's a drive or two, I hate the fact that, you can risk injury. Once again, now, we talked about it on the baseball podcast. Any snap, Jalen Hurts can get hurt. Any snap, Aaron Rodgers, we saw Aaron Rodgers get hurt on the first drive of the regular. You're taking a risk no matter what. So let them play. But back to your question, yeah, I mean, any rep to me is better than not having that rep. When we go in to play you guys, I feel like you have the advantage just on the fact that you have game speed reps, and we're not going to play. From every indication, they're saying the Eagles number 1, AJ Brown, all them guys won't play any of the preseason, and it's frustrating to me, but it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I definitely see it from both sides of the spectrum where coaches try to play it, but I definitely think you got to have at least a drive. Get everything flowing, because like Matt LaFleur said about his Packers team, he said we tried it a couple years ago where we didn't have our starting quarterback would go out there. We didn't have the starters go out there, and they went into week one and they were rusty. And, they're professionals. That it wears off fast, you hope. But you want to go in ready to go. Like the Packers, the Eagles, they want to make a statement week one in Brazil. They want to make a statement and say, like, hey, we're going to be on top of the NFC North because, the Eagles are back. I believe the Eagles are actually going to be one of the top teams in the NFC this year. Most people do. And I want to see a week one matchup where you could be talking about that same matchup down the road there in the playoffs. Like that could be a preview what we see week one. I don't want to see any rusty business or anybody saying end of the day like, well, the Eagles were kind of rusty going into week one, but that it doesn't, that doesn't lead me to good football then. I want to see a preview of what we could see down the road. I want to see a good matchup. I want to see both teams coming in firing on all cylinders. That's not saying the Eagles can't, but a lot of teams, and I want to get your perspective on this. The Packers, they said when they were going to face the Broncos, they had the joint practices before that. Are the joint practices the same as playing at game speed? Is it the same sense of urgency, everything like that? To me, I think it's a glorified live scrimmage, joint practices. It's not to the sense of actually playing in that preseason game because you hear a lot of people talk about it, but when you get into a preseason game, those guys are playing balls to the walls because most of those guys are still trying to earn a paycheck. They're trying to earn a spot yet. They're still giving it their all. Most of the guys that you're going to face on a second team or some of the first team guys even who are on the edge of losing their spot, they're still playing hard. It's still hard-nosed football when it comes to the preseason here and there, right? You get your starters in there, it gets a little different, right? We watch Patrick Mahomes throw one behind his back. I don't know if it was, they said it wasn't scripted. Some people have said it's scripted. They've seen him do it before. Nothing really surprises me with him anymore. He just kind of throws the ball around. Like, that's just how it works. But I want to hear from you guys, joint practices to preseason game. Are they the same to you? Is a joint practice a little bit lesser of a game situation than what you would see? They're still throwing different stints at you and everything like that, but preseason, the pressure on the quarterback is actually real. Like, it's real pressure. That guy can get hit. Like, the preseason, they don't hold back, whereas joint practices, we're kind of avoiding hitting guys. We're not going as fast in there. It's different when you get into a real game.
I do think joint practices have a purpose, and I kind of think that's why the NFL is kicking around the idea of, 18-game season, taking away another preseason game, because I think the league realizes that a lot of these coaches like joint practices because joint practice is more controlled. Like, you can sit there and go, coordinate with the coach and say, look, the first 10 plays we're doing red zone because we want to work on our red zone offense. I'm sure you want to work on your red zone defense. Like, you could prep red zone for a whole preseason. We get to the game, never get into the red zone. So then you just kind of wasted your week of practice on that one aspect, where at least with a joint practice, you can script out how you play it out. You get refs there, so you do get like a simulated game just in a controlled environment, so that if you have a kicking battle going on, you could set aside 10 minutes to just do special teams, kickoffs, kick returns, field goal, block, all that kind of stuff, and see which kicker can do better in certain situations. So I do think joint practices, at least to the coaches, are more beneficial because they can control that environment more than a preseason game. In the fact, you never know how the game's going to go, if it will even allow you to see certain guys in certain aspects that you wanted to. So I do think the joint practices for preparation-wise might be a little better than preseason games.
I have like 1 foot in, 1 foot out on that, only because in a joint practice, you're not going to have Mason Crosby come across the line and just clothesline, Saquon Barkley. If that happens, there's probably going to be an all-out brawl in the freaking – and we'll be reading about it, right? Like that. Nothing simulates like game speed and just aggression, but I
the uncontrollables too.
Exactly,
like the uncontrollables of a game.
This guy missed the block, and now Jalen Hurts is smashed into the ground. Like, it's just like to me, that's the most valuable thing. But I definitely see where Kyle's coming from. Like, as long as you don't, I mean, maybe Belichick would be like, no, we're not. Like, I could see him be like an opposing like some rookie coach comes to New England for a joint practice, and he's like, "Can we do this?" He's like, "Shut up, young whippersnapper. Like, I'm Bill Belichick, and we're gonna do what I want to do." But like, I definitely could see like a situation.
You're still there.
Oh, geez, here we go. The technical difficulty with my stuff, but no, I could see why definitely the benefit to a joint like there's a lot of things you can gain from that, and like I doubt these teams will like you'll ever kind of learn little things, but you might learn. Oh, remember when we had that joint practice? They like to do that, like, but they're gonna change things a lot, so you don't. The NFL is it's a copycat league, but at the same time, it's a guessing. Like you want to keep the other team on their heels. So it's interesting though. I like the idea, and I got to tune into Hard Knocks more to see how they kind of go. I've seen some mic'd up stuff a little bit here and there of the joint practice, but I kind of want to like dive into it a little bit more.
Yeah, hearing both sides, I do see the benefit of the joint practice. The controlled environment, being able to run through your stuff. Like you said, Kyle, I mean, the Packers have a terrible kicking situation right now. They got to figure that out. Figuring that out in a joint practice is huge. I just like both aspects of, okay, now we're in an uncontrolled environment. I want to see the first team offense when we don't have control of the situation. We don't have control of this. I want to see how they react. I want to see these young guys, how they react. So I think it's like Aaron said, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. There's benefits to both sides of it. The controlled part helps with the injury part. It keeps, your quarterback protected. It keeps, but like Aaron always tells us, you can get hurt walking out of your car. I mean, there's so many different things that can happen. Look at Alex Smith. I mean, that was just everything in his knee explodes at one time. Like sometimes it's a freak accident that there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. And that's the sucky part. That's the sucky part at the end of the day. But I mean, okay, we're talking backup quarterbacks. I'm going to give you a list of free agent quarterbacks that the Packers could possibly look at to be a backup if they decide that we need somebody else in the room. If any of these guys catch your eye, let me know. So my number one guy has got to be Ryan Tannehill. It's got to be Ryan Tannehill. Yes, he's 36 years old, but can you really think of a better backup out there in the free agent market right now than that? I don't know. So you got Ryan Tannehill. Brian Hoyer's out there. I don't know if I'm swinging at that one. Trevor Siemian. AJ McCarron. He's had some good luck with the XFL and whatever it's called now, the UFL or whatever you call it. AJ McCarron's looked pretty solid in there, so I don't know. AJ McCarron might be a solid one. Kellen Mond, I'm not really – the Vikings, that was a disaster. We kicked the crap out of him, so I don't want anything to do with that one there. And who was the last one there? Blaine Gabbert, who was with the Jaguars there for a little while. Last year with the Chiefs. Started his first game in 2018. Not a whole lot to talk about with Blaine Gabbert there. But any of those guys catch your eye, I'm kind of looking at Ryan Tannehill and A.J. McCarron. Those would be two guys where – I'd be okay bringing them in and making a little bit of a quarterback controversy there in Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, those are probably the only two names off that list that would make any sense, especially with Jordan Love being a young quarterback. You kind of want a veteran behind him. I mean, you did say Brian Hoyer. That would be another guy because Brian Hoyer is known for, being a mentor to a young quarterback. He's more of like a QB coach with them, so I wouldn't be mad at that. But yeah, McCarron and Tannehill would definitely be the leaders out of that list because if you had to turn to them for a game or two, they've seen everything. Like they've been through anything you could throw at them, so they would be the quickest to get up to speed and have them go out there and run your offense. Probably obviously not the same as Jordan Love because Jordan Love can do things that those two can't. But you're not scaling your playbook like to the bare bones for a guy like Kellen Mond or something because because of his limitations as a quarterback in general, he can't do a lot of things you want to do. Like for McCarron and Tannehill, it might just be the scrambling aspect they don't do much of. Tannehill can run a little, but yeah, that they'll go out there, they'll do their best to protect the ball. So yeah, I'll take a veteran quarterback that's had some success even if it's not in the NFL like AJ McCarron, but we've seen him XFL and UFL. He's like a legend in those leagues. Like he obviously can play. So you'd be better off with one of those two.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I pull for Sean Clifford, obviously being a Penn State quarterback for like the guy was there for 20 years, it felt like, but he had that COVID year, an extra year of eligibility. Like he played, I think 6 years in total. During that COVID era, it was like weird. Like guys were just getting extra years of like there were guys getting. I swear to God, there was guys getting 2-3 years of more eligibility out of that somehow, some way. But I don't know if he can do it at the when they drafted him, I was happy that he got drafted, but I was like, how much does this guy really have? And then the fact that he hasn't really played, Love's been in there, primarily the entire time since he's been drafted. So that goes against him too. I mean, you got to look at Tannehill. As much as I thought Tannehill was such a disappointment at times, like he's a story. Like he's been around the league, like Kyle said. He's played the position. He's been a starting quarterback in this league. That's about kind of where I start. Like he's like, to me, he's like a poor man's Phillip Rivers, and like that's almost might be an insult to Phillip Rivers, but it's like he can play the position. He, like Kyle said, you can have an actual playbook with him. It's not like you're taking some guy that has no idea what's going on. I looked up Blaine Gabbert because I remember how hyped he was coming out of college. Like everybody's like, oh man, this guy just has once again another just hyped up first round pick. But yeah, he's done absolutely nothing in his career. Basically, like 12 touchdowns, 11 picks. So I mean, and that he hasn't really played a substantial amount of time in the league, even though he's been bounced around the league. So it's a shame that Joe Flacco ended up signing with the Colts because I think that would be kind of a cool, pick up Joe Flacco, the guy with the Browns last year. We saw what he can do. Like I'd almost rather go to Flacco than Tannehill if, gun to my head type of decision. But yeah, I mean, yeah, AJ McCarron, like you guys pretty much picked the best options. Now it's slim pickings, I think. I think Tannehill even has probably a good amount of space between him and McCarron, but I mean, you never know. One of these guys might get released. Like you just don't like. There's third stringers out there that, I mean, you never know what you could run yourself into. But I think, if you don't feel good about both of those guys, maybe you dump off the third string if you consider, Clifford a little bit better and roll the dice and bring somebody else in. Like, yeah, I'm used to the Eagles really, focusing on that backup. Like went out and got Kenny Pickett, who was a quote unquote starter, yes, but I mean there are serious question marks about him too. So.
Yeah, no, and the biggest thing with Green Bay is everybody played like crap. So it's hard to completely gauge the backup quarterback position right now because the offensive line did not help at all. Like the second string offensive line, it opened up a lot of holes for Green Bay that they're looking at themselves saying, was it a lack of effort? Was it, I don't know what that was, but it was bad. It was bad football. For preseason football, that was bad football all the way around. So I want to look at a team that everybody is telling me is going to be this next hot thing in the NFC North. I'm going to look at the NFC North, but I'm going to say the Chicago Bears right now. Caleb Williams has looked solid in the preseason. He's looked solid. He's made some good throws. He's made some throws. Everything's been, A-okay with the Chicago Bears so far. I want to know where you guys sit with the Caleb Williams situation, because I've heard a lot of people saying that this guy is the next Patrick Mahomes already. They're putting this guy on a pedestal that I don't even know if he's going to reach that pedestal. My biggest thing with Caleb Williams, honestly, I'm not a big fan of Caleb Williams. You guys know that. I've told you guys, I've told everybody, I'm not that big of a fan of Caleb Williams. If he does do well, if he succeeds, if he is this great NFL quarterback, okay. Like, that's great. That's great. Everybody saw it before I did. I just see a guy who has a lot of talent, but sometimes I feel like the talent can get kind of blocked off by what's going on mentally, what's going on in the head of this guy. Johnny Manziel was a prime example of that for me. Johnny Manziel is a big example. I thought Baker Mayfield, when he first started his career, was a big example of that. Two guys who are highly talked about, high up there in the draft, but ended up being not so great. Baker has turned it around. I'll give props to Baker. He has definitely turned it around with the Buccaneers. But we saw what happened, Johnny Football. I look at Caleb Williams. I'm not saying that's the way his career is going to trend. As a Packer fan, it's what my hope is that his career slowly goes down the crapper and they end up sucking again. Like, that's okay with me. I just look at this Bears team and I say, okay, you added Keenan Allen. Now, Keenan Allen's a good wide receiver. I don't think he's this phenomenal wide receiver anymore. I thought he was good when he first came to the Bears there from the Chargers when he was originally with the Cardinals. I was like, this is a good football player. I've never thought of him as top 10. But now we're talking about this Bears receiver core as being top 10. Rome Odunze, I got to see it. I think a lot of the things with me with the Bears right now is everybody's putting him up on this pedestal where they're like, oh, yeah, the Packers aren't going to be second in the division. The Lions aren't going to be able to run it. The Bears are going to be right there. I think the Bears are going to be a tough team, but I think they're going to have growing pains. I think this is a young team that still has some developing to do. I don't think they have the right head coach in the system. I don't think Eberflus is a good head coach. I think that definitely could hilter and kind of kick back what Caleb Williams could actually be, right? Because I don't, truthfully, I watched Justin Fields. I don't think Justin Fields is that bad. I really don't. I think there is some potential with Justin Fields. He just needs the right coach, right? Just like Brock Purdy needs Kyle Shanahan, Tua needs McDaniels. I mean, Jordan Love needs Matt LaFleur. I think that Justin Fields needs a good head coach, and I think he could be good. So for me, it's a wait and see with the Bears. I don't know. I want to hear where you guys are at kind of with the Bears right now in this NFC North, where you see them kind of sitting right now, because they're in my third spot. I think the NFC North is running through the Lions and the Packers. I think it's going to be a gunslinging fight between those two for the top two spots, and I think the Bears are going to finish in third. Where do you guys see in this Bears team right now, where they're going to sit, and kind of what you're seeing with the Bears right now?
I mean, I think that's a good assessment of where the Bears are. I think a lot of the hype around Caleb Williams is that just looking at the Bears where they've been especially at the quarterback position, their best talent was probably Jay Cutler. And those Jay Cutler years were just maddening because he had all the talent, it seemed like, in his right arm with all the throws he can make. But it just seemed like he was lacking the fire of like a Tom Brady or just pick any quarterback that you feel like is an ultra competitor. Jay Cutler always came across as the exact opposite. Like he'd be the guy that would throw 4 picks. He'd sit on the sideline and he would look like it's just another day in the week. And we lost. Nah, there's another game next week. I'll be starting. I'll see you then. And it's just like sometimes you just want to see from him one of those outbursts where he's like frustrated at himself. Throw a Microsoft Surface tablet. I don't even know if they used those when he was playing. That's like recent, but like take one of those tablets, like Brady and all the quarterbacks will do. They'll look at the picture and be like, "Oh yeah, I missed that wide receiver," and they throw it like 20 yards down the sideline. It's like that's the kind of stuff you wanted to see Cutler do, and he just never did it. So the fact that Caleb Williams was the number 1 pick, Heisman Trophy winner, like Bears fans feel like, oh, we actually have a talented guy at the quarterback position. If you look at him during the preseason, he's made some throws. I think his completion percentage is like around 50%, which is not a good number. Like you're supposed to be around 65% in today's game. So if accuracy is going to be a problem for him, then yeah, you're going to have to temper your expectations for this Bears team. So look, I'm a big Keenan Allen fan, but I'm also not blind to the fact that he's an older wide receiver. But I feel like they've made some upgrades to their line. And Rome Odunze, from what I saw in Washington, he seems like a talent. But like you said, you do have to see it at the NFL level. I'm also a Justin Fields fan. But there are some things about his game that are frustrating as well. He tends to hold the ball way too much. because he's trying to find that big play downfield. If Caleb Williams is, smart, takes his checkdowns, eases his way into games, and then takes his shot later on, I think the Bears could be fine. I agree with you. I think they're going to be third place in the division, but I also do think there's an outside shot. The NFC North gets 3 teams into the playoffs. So the Bears could very well be like a final wildcard team if everything goes, I guess, to plan. Like Caleb Williams looks like a legit quarterback. Same way they could miss the playoffs because he struggles with accuracy or decision making. But I guess I can see where you're coming from, where you don't want to jump necessarily on the hype train because you just haven't seen it in a regular season game yet. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think between the fact that, like, this is like another Jets situation. Like, show me how many quarterbacks they've drafted and show me how many of them have panned out. Like, until I see this through, even if he has a good year this year, right? Like, let's say they go 9-7 or what is it? They go 9-8 now with the extra game a couple years ago. But, like, I don't know. Like, I just can't get on this, like, oh my God, he's going to be like, obviously we talk about how people want to make headlines all the time and get more clicks and get more views. Like, the whole, like, the fact they're comparing him to Mahomes, like, please, like, not pump the brakes, stand on the brakes. Like, that's insane to say that, in my opinion, already.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're in the preseason, and he's like 50%. Like, if you want to break down everything, he's 50% completion percentage. Like, don't even insult Mahomes like that. But the fact that, I mean, like Kyle says all the time, the Chicago fans need something to hang their hat on. They haven't. I mean, Fields didn't turn out, but I mean, Fields at Ohio. I mean, I watched him play at Ohio State all the time, and not that college is like what they do in college translates, but you kind of watch for the eye test. And like Fields in college was a monster. Like, I was like, oh my God, this guy is, But then I always said, he's an Ohio State quarterback. How many of those guys pan out? Like, and one of them's bound to. Like, you can't just hold on to those things forever. But do I trust the Bears organization to like make this all work? No, I don't. And then you say, Eberflus, like, what has he done? And then like Trajan and I talked about a couple weeks ago that he's like rated as some like high level head coach by all these, like, it's just the hype train is going through the Bears right now because it's the flashy new toy. But is he going to be like a mid-level quarterback? Maybe. Is he like, he has the potential? Yes, to be a good quarterback. But do I trust everything to come together with this Bears team right now? No, I don't. I mean, I if McCarthy didn't go out for the year, I could make an argument that this is a 4th place team. Like, I just don't. I don't trust this Bears team to really do all that much. Like, if they win 7 games, I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be. If they compete for the division, I will be like, I mean, you can shoot me. That's how. Like, I don't have any faith that they'll be up there with the Packers, and I still think the Lions take a step back from. Like, I think this is the Packers division to lose. I've said that from like the beginning, but I mean, I can appreciate the Bears fans for having this much hype and the glass half full mindset. I mean, I guess you kind of have to at this point, but it's definitely a show me type of thing. Like, and like I said, even if he has a good year this year, who knows how his career is going to play out. He's done. I'm not going to say nothing. He won a Heisman Trophy, but it takes a lot to be the guy at the pro level, and we've seen how many first round picks, how many first overall picks not pan out. So until he does it, I'm just kind of like, it's a question mark to me.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is you can have all the tools in the world, but can you put it all together? Can you put it mentally together? And I think that was a big thing I took from what you guys were saying there. You talk about him, you listen to all the analysis on him, and it's staying on schedule, doing everything on schedule. And like Kyle was saying, hitting the short routes when they're there. I think the biggest thing, like you said there, Kyle, like you guys were hinting at, is making the easy plays. Don't try to do too much. Patrick Mahomes, sometimes that guy's just crazy with it. But there's a guy that, I believe Dan Orlovsky was the guy who was talking about it. Josh Allen is almost a kind of comparison to what we're seeing with Caleb Williams, what we could see is, yes, they both have the ability to run. Now, Josh Allen's a freak of nature with his size and his ability to run the football, but Caleb Williams likes to run too. But what we see with Josh Allen is a lot of ill-advised throws, trying to fit it in windows that aren't there or they're past. That's where Caleb Williams has to avoid that portion if the Bears want to have a good season here. So let's do a prediction real fast. We think the Bears are going to finish third, which puts the Vikings in fourth. Where are you guys sitting? Packers, Lions, who wins the division?
I believe I would have the Lions win the division. I have the Packers as like the first wildcard team. I think they'll be the best team that's not a division winner. So, yeah, I will go Lions then Packers.
Yeah, like I just said, I think the Lions, not to say they can't go back to back, but it's like, do I trust them to? Like, we saw that Green Bay 49ers game. I was like fully plugged in because I'm like the biggest 49ers hater there is, and I was like all go Pack go that day. And it was like, you take away a couple possessions, and like the first half and second half were two different games, unfortunately, for the Packers there. But you can make an argument like the Packers could have went to the Super Bowl last year, and so is the Lions, right? The Lions were in the NFC Championship, but I think Jordan Love is ascending. I think we may have seen the best season that Jared Goff can have. Not to say he can't do it again, but I just don't know. I'll take the kind of the ascending team over like we don't know if they can go back to back. So, I still think the Lions have a good chance of making the playoffs. I just don't know if I don't think they win the division.
That's the big thing is Jordan Love. If Jordan Love gives you what he did second half of last season, you're talking MVP candidate. You're talking like mopping the floor with the NFC North. Like it could be a wild ride for Packer fans. Plus, they got Josh Jacobs now too. So if Josh Jacobs can work with this offensive line, can be as good as what I believe he should have been with Oakland and now Las Vegas Raiders, but they had a terrible team. Like that was terribly ran. Everything was a mess. Josh Jacobs is still a good back. If he can give you that with Green Bay, plus the weapons they have in the wide receiver room, two young tight ends with a ton of upside, and a defense that's now got McKinney on it. You're talking he could be the best safety in football when it's all said and done this year. Last year, you're talking about a guy who was in the top 10 of safeties. He could definitely be a top safety in the NFL coming after this year. Jair gives you what he's got to give you in that cornerback position. And a lot of these rookies, there's a lot of rookies, but if they pan out and Halfley, Kyle's a big on Halfley. He's a Boston College guy. Halfley left out there. Kyle, give us a little bit about Halfley. Let us know a little bit about Halfley there.
Look, Halfley was like when you watch BC football under him, they had really good defenses. So I don't doubt that that's something that will translate over to the NFL. His offenses were, I think, kind of surprisingly pretty good. Like Zay Flowers came out of that offense and he put up pretty good numbers with BC. But his defenses were big on pressure because BC's kind of known for like their linebacker play and D-line play with like a corner or two that are pretty good. And they held some of the big names in the ACC to some pretty low scoring games. So he's a guy that I have full faith in his ability to come up with an NFL-style defense and for that defense to execute on a weekly basis. So I think they'll be in good hands with him.
I like the aggressive play. I really do. I like the aggressive play that he brings to the defense. Letting these young guys on this defense fly around. I thought Joe Barry held them back. I thought he played too safe. I'm talking, they had a game against the Lions, 3rd and 2 or I think it was like 3rd and 3, and it was for the season. Like that was that year with Aaron Rodgers, and it was for the season. They still had a shot at the playoffs. They played relaxed. They played off the ball defense, and the receiver, all they had to do was run a little slant route, and he was wide open. And it was first down. There's your ball game. Like it was just the stupid things along the way. And the big thing I love with Halfley is his willingness to listen to his defense. Jair's talked about it, and McKinney's talked about it. They walk in there and they're like, "Hey, we think you should do it this way." And he'll just be like, yep, I agree. We can try it that way. We can do this and see how it works. And I mean, I love that. I love having that player-coach kind of relationship there where those guys can walk in because these are professional athletes too. I mean, it's not getting, I don't want to get to the extent like LeBron James with the Lakers. Like, that's just stupid. I mean, LeBron is the coach of that team. He might as well just take the uniform off, be the coach. Like, I think that's ridiculous. But I love when players can say, like, hey, like, we see it this way. We should try it this way. It took, I mean, last season, Matt LaFleur actually took over the defense. That's how bad it was. He took over the defense and was the defensive coordinator for the second half. That is how bad it could be. Like, and Matt LaFleur didn't do a bad job calling the defense because we saw what the Packers did down the stretch. But you got to have a good defensive coordinator in the room. And I agree. I am really excited to see what Hafley's defense looks like here. Against some, I mean, once we get into the regular season, we can see a little bit more of what it's going to be when they play everybody's ones and they get to see, you know, Jalen Hurts down there in Brazil. Nobody can wear green because otherwise the cartels might get upset. I don't know. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous what's going on down there right now. But let's switch gears. We got a little bit of time left for the day here. Let's switch gears. I want to look over at the MLB real quick here and just kind of look at some of the standings right now. See if it's kind of sitting where we thought it would. See if it's kind of sitting where we thought it would. So we look in the American League. We have, I'm just going to go through the overall rankings right now. Yankees are up top overall. They got the 1 seed right now, followed by the Guardians there. They're a half game back. The Orioles are a half game back. Twins 2.5 back. Kansas City Royals 3 games back. Astros 4.5. And then we got the Red Sox 7.5 games back right now. Seattle Mariners have fallen out of the playoff picture as of right now, as they have kind of fallen apart in that AL West right now. So in that American League, I would say the surprising part for me is the amount of American League Central teams that are in that top, I believe it's top 5. Yeah, top 5 at this point in overall record. I mean, this was a division where it was almost laughable. You watched them every year, and it was like, okay, the Guardians are going to get in, but they're going to be the laughing stock, and whoever plays them is going to mop them across the floor. Like, that's just how it was. Now we're seeing 3 teams right now who all have realistic shots to give any one of these top teams a run for their money when it comes into the playoffs there. So any surprises to you guys looking at that American League East right now?
No, I mean, I think the Central was a situation where we expect the Twins and the Guardians to be there only because they seem like they're always fighting with each other. Look, I think it's refreshing to see the Royals be up there again. You know, it's been a while since they made it up there, got to a World Series, won a World Series, and then they kind of went back to being the Royals. You know, they have Bobby Witt Jr., who was exciting to watch. You know, I paid close attention when the Red Sox played against them, and he basically hit everything. So this would be great exposure for him if he were to make it to a postseason and have fans who don't watch Royals baseball to actually see one of the good young players in the league play on a big stage, which is something that baseball isn't great at marketing-wise, but at least if he's playing in the games, you have to watch him. I think that would be the big surprise, that the Royals are having a really good season so far. I mean, I did pick the Orioles to win the East. I mean, they're right there with the Yankees. That seems like a race that's going to go down to the end of September, which I think is great for baseball as well. I'm all about, you know, tight playoff races down to the final week. It makes the game much more exciting. So, nothing too surprising necessarily with the American League picture right now. The Red Sox hanging around is kind of surprising. They were expecting to win like 70-something games this year. They already have 65. So
solid. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The way this AL East has turned out, like when the Yankees went through that really horrible stretch, I thought that's when Baltimore has to put the foot on the gas and start winning some more series, you know, sweeping more series. Like sometimes I look at and I've been paying more attention, like I just get a lot more Phillies coverage where I live, but, you know, trying to keep up with the Orioles in the AL East as much as I can, it's just like that. Their record to me doesn't feel like, they don't feel as good as their record right now because they've been so up and down. Like and so have the Yankees though. Like, so, you know, as good as like you look at the Yankees run differential, it's a lot better than the Orioles. But I mean, every time Craig, I've flip the Orioles on, and Craig Kimbrell, I'm like, here we go. There's another loss. Like it's just but I mean, you look at Clay Holmes for the Yankees. Everybody's like, oh my God, all-star, best closer in the AL. He's blown 10 saves, so he has like a 70% close rate right now, which that's not great. That's not even good. Both those teams have like glaring. I mean, the Orioles have lost so much pitching throughout this year to injury. I mean, when Bradish went down, thank God they went and got Burns, because if they didn't have him, I mean, they went and got Zach Eflin at the deadline, and he's been pretty much dynamite for them so far. I mean, I don't know. He's good, but how much do I expect out of Zach Eflin? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, the AL East to me is really weird. Like the records look deceivingly good, but both those teams, even Baltimore anymore, I just don't know if they can put it all together. Starting pitching, bullpen, lineup, all of it. I probably trust the lineup more than, and then followed by the starting pitching, and then the bullpen's just terrifying. And then the Yankees, I don't know. Probably the starting pitching, lineup, and then their bullpen's gotten shaky too. So, I mean, yeah, you mentioned the AL Central. I think the Guardians have a good chance. Like, I could see them in the ALCS. I really, really could this year. The Twins, I mean, if the Twins play the Yankees, you might as well chalk that to a sweep, because the Yankees are like 901 against the Twins in the last 901 games. I mean, if you look at the record between the Yankees and Twins, like people have talked about that, it's like absurd. Like, and I expect the Orioles to beat the Twins. Like, I mean, if they don't beat them, that's pretty sad in my opinion, because they don't have that much. I mean, they're a decent team, and then the Royals are a surprisingly good team. I still think they'll phase out. Like, I'd be shocked if they, go all the way to like the ALCS. I mean, yes, they could easily be a playoff team. Do they have enough? I really don't think. But yeah, I mean, that AL Central is definitely more interesting than it's been in past years, and I'm glad the Royals are at least playing good, because usually it's usually the Guardians and Twins, and then literally nobody else. But and then you got the White Sox, who, if they would win out, they would still miss the playoffs. So that's
isn't that bad? You're not. Terrible. Are they eliminated yet? Nobody's talking elimination numbers yet. Did they get eliminated?
If you pull it up at least on ESPN, there's an E next to their.
Well, at least they got that to look forward to. At least they got that to look forward to on the backside. You know what the Kansas City Royals give me the vibe of? The Arizona Diamondbacks from last year. They got that one electric player like Corbin Carroll was last year. They got that in Bobby Witt. They don't have this pitching staff that's like daunting, but they got solid. Seth Lugo's solid in there. They got some solid arms. They got a solid bullpen. They have young guys across. They have that old guy on their team. You look at Salvi Perez. They had Evan Longoria, with the Arizona. It gives me those vibes. So they could be a dangerous team. I could see them as that dangerous team who gets into the playoffs and could put a run on somebody. I don't know who. Hopefully the Yankees, right? Hopefully they knock the Yankees out. But I could see them as that dangerous team who puts a run on there. So National League, the surprising part to me about both leagues is how close it is at the top right now. It is very close for a 1 seed versus a 4 seed right now, realistically on both sides at this very point. Looking at the National League right now, Phillies are up top by a half a game over the Dodgers. Then we see the Brewers a game back of the Phillies right now. Padres 3.5 back. Diamondbacks are sitting 4 back. Braves are sitting 7 back right now. And then we got the Mets sitting 8.5 games back of first place right now. For me, the Mets started out like complete hot garbage. So I would say the Mets have got to be one of the surprises. I mean, it was guys finally started to hit, right? Francisco Lindor was bad to start the year. He finally started to put something together. So his guys actually starting to hit was a big thing for the Mets. Padres, did not expect that. That NL West is heating up fast. I mean, we talked about the AL Central having 3 teams in the playoff race. We have 3 NL West teams. I mean, if you count the Giants, they're sitting 3 games back, 3.5 back, 2.5 back of the Mets right now for a playoff spot. So you're talking 4 NL West teams who still have a shot into the playoffs right now. That's crazy. That's crazy if you ask me. The Brewers hanging out that close to the Phillies and Dodgers. That's something too. I thought, the way it was trending first half, the Phillies and Dodgers, they just seemed like they were just building this lead. They were kind of pulling away, gonna just run. The Phillies looked like they were gonna run away with everything, and then the Dodgers looked like they were just gonna be chasing them the entire time. Now it's kind of settled back, and now we see three teams with realistic shots for a 1, 2, and a 3 seed when it comes down to playoff situation. I think it's going to be a crazy finish. I really do. I'm pegging it as a crazy finish between those three teams. I don't know. I would have to look. The Brewers have to face. Do they face the Phillies one more time?
I think they do. I feel like they do.
I think they do too. I really do think
it'll be in Milwaukee this time.
I do think they have one more series there with the Phillies down the stretch.
Yeah, September 16th through the 18th of September, they play the Phillies.
Yep. There you go. So, that Phillies-Brewers series could mean a heck of a lot when it comes to the playoff race. That really could. Do the Dodgers and Phillies face off one more time?
I don't think so. They played them at least twice. Let me see.
Okay. Yep. By the looks of it,
they just
played
finished
them
with the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Yep. So they should be done there. So the Phillies-Brewers could mean a heck of a lot when it comes down to this playoff race here. That is a big circle the date calendar spot right there for everybody. But looking at this NL, guys, it's a crazy race. I think it's going to be a crazy finish on both sides. It is really, baffling how close these records are this season. It's a pretty level playing field across the board right now with teams. So looking at the NL, though, where are you guys looking in this one? Any craziness that's going on right now? Maybe where do you see it finishing at this point? What are you guys thinking right now, NL-wise?
Yeah, I think it's going to be something that does come down to the wire because, look, you were just talking about the Brewers' schedule and sandwiched around that Phillies series, they have 2 series against the Diamondbacks. So in a 3-series stretch, they go Diamondbacks, Phillies, Diamondbacks. Those are 9 games there that could decide a lot in terms of who finishes as division winners and wildcard teams. So I think that stretch of like a week and a half or so is going to be interesting to watch, like how it shakes out after that. Look, you got to give the Braves like some storyline because they just keep dropping from the lineup and they are literally like on that cliffhanger, and it seems like the rope they're holding on to is slipping from their fingers, but they are fighting as hard as they can to just hang around. Because you did mention the Diamondbacks, you could also look at the Rangers last year. 2 wildcard teams that made it to the World Series, and I think for teams like the Braves or even the Diamondbacks who are in the same position this year, I think those teams are fine being a wildcard team, especially for the Braves if they could get some of the guys back. If you're playing better towards the end of September going into the playoffs, you can ride that momentum into a World Series berth. And I feel like that's why last year I think may probably have changed a lot of teams' perspective, like at the trade deadline. Like if you're a wildcard team, maybe you don't push it to try to become a division winner because as long as the bodies you have are healthy going into the playoffs, anything can happen. So I feel like that's going to be the intriguing part of the National League playoffs because some of the teams ahead of them, the Dodgers, the Padres, even the Phillies have had some shortcomings in years where they were looked as one of the favorites. So it may not be a guarantee of being a number 1 seed in the National League and that actually working in your favor. Because the Diamondbacks will be battle-tested, the Braves are battle-tested. The Padres, no, but the Padres have talent. Like this is the Padres team for the past couple of years that people have believed in, and they've fallen short. And it seems like this year they're actually putting it together. So I think it'll be fun to watch down the stretch here.
Yeah, I will say this whole because I know the Phillies' mindset is like we're kind of just preparing for the post. Like I think they don't fear the Braves, and like that's fine. I get that. Like they should be able to just win that division outright. But this whole like let's coast into the playoffs like that. I hate that mindset. I think that's a dangerous mindset to have. I think they took the Diamondbacks lightly after going up. They were up 3-1 in the NLCS last year. like, look at the Brewers. They're right there. That's a hungry team.
Mm-hmm.
The Dodgers, I mean, they obviously they want to prove that they can win a World Series, not in the COVID year. Like, every team that's on that cusp right there, I still don't fear that the Padres, yes, they're playing good. I just don't have that same, like, I'd rather face the Padres than the Brewers right now. Just for the simple fact that I think the Brewers have more, like, fire and more, they're just, like Trajan says all the time, they're a scrappy team. Like, they'll fight. Like, Machado will fight you, but he's just a dirty player. Like, the Brewers, I think, go about it probably the right way. The Phillies team to me is like, yeah, if they continue with this stupid mindset of, like, we're gonna cruise the playoffs, we're gonna have home field advantage, and they might win the first series, but after that, it's anybody's ball game. And even that first series, we've seen crazier things happen. So this NL, I mean, Trajan, you said it perfectly. Like, this, even the AL, the NL, like, everything has gotten so tight. There's no, like, in years past, I mean, we've seen the Dodgers be, like, way above everybody else in the NL West, or the Braves the Phillies have been the wild card team in the NL because the Braves just wipe them clean out of that division. Doesn't mean much. You get to the postseason, it's, whoever can win then. But this, like, 1 seed, 2 seed, like, everything, if it stays like this down the stretch, it's going to be, I think that's good for baseball. I mean, maybe that's what they need, is just everybody tuned in. The Brewers fans are tuned in. The Diamondbacks fans are, like, every fan base is kind of, like, on edge what's going to happen. So we'll see. I think maybe some of these teams separate, but up to this point, that hasn't happened. So we'll see.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a crazy finish. I can't wait for it. It is August. It is getting closer to September. I mean, we're almost to, the Fall Classic. It is a crazy time of year there. But, hey, we got to wrap it up here. I'm going to wrap it up with the poll question that I had for the day out there on the Facebook page and everywhere. And that was, I said, I got 3 options for you. We're doing a start bench cut. In this one. I had Bill Hall, J.J. Hardy, and Willie Adames. So 3 shortstops for the Brewers. Bill Hall only played there for a year, but in that 1 year, he was dynamite for the Brewers. So I had lots of answers. I'm going to go through them real quick here. Chad R. Draper, he said he'd start Adames. He was the best Brewer shortstop since Robin Yount. He'd bench Bill Hall, and then he would cut Hardy. The Wisconsinite podcast said start Adames, bench Hardy, cut Hall. Robert Schmidt, he said Adames, he's going to start him there, benching Hardy, and cutting Hall there. Caroline Hogan said Adames is going to start, bench Hall, and cut Hardy. Darren Patterson, well, he wrote a lot there. Adames starts, power hitter. He's going to bench Hardy there, nice player. And then Hall, he's going to cut there. Kim Rohde said start Adames, bench Hardy, and cut Hall. Adames was an easy start for Bailey Strasser there. Bench Hardy and easily cut Hall. I don't think it was that easy, Bailey, but come on there. Verlin Mead said Willie team leader, love JJ Butt, ... I don't know what the butt means. Henry Matasuk, I'm not good at names. Start Adames, bench Hardy, and cut Hall there. And then just a couple more. We had Amanda Ruff. She said start Hall, bench Willie, and cut J.J. Hardy there. I'm going to agree with the start Willie Adames. I think Willie Adames is all around. I'd give him the nod there. I don't think it's as easy with Hardy and Hall there, though. I think I'm going to take, if I'm going Bill Hall in that, he had the highest slugging in for a shortstop outside of Robin Yount with the Brewers. I think I'm going to have to go Bill Hall on my bench, and then I'm going to cut J.J. Hardy. I'm going to be honest with you. You guys know, J.J. Hardy ended up with the Orioles there for a little bit. You guys know a little bit about J.J. Hardy and Bill Hall there. Who you starting, who you benching, who you cutting between Willie Adames, Bill Hall, and J.J. Hardy?
I do think the Adames start is probably the easiest part of it. Like, it's always tough when you ask something like that and, like, the current player is involved in it because he's so fresh in your mind and he's such a good player. But I would still start Adames. I'm kind of with you. Like, I think Bill Hall was, like, he was a legit bat when he was in there. I think I was one of those who always thought, like, I remember J.J. Hardy with the Orioles, and he had, like, a couple of good years, but I also feel like there were some years where he kind of underperformed. I mean, maybe I'm thinking of a different player, but I feel like I remember the Bill Hall year in Milwaukee, and it seemed like he came with some big hits. I probably would bench Hall and cut Hardy. So I think I would agree with you and a few of the people who responded to you as well.
I guess I'll be the outlier. I'll still start Adames. I don't remember Bill Hall like you guys do. I pulled up the stat line though. I got side by side. So Bill Hall was never an all-star, and he never won a Gold Glove or a Silver Slugger. So just keep that in mind.
Just look at his 2006 stats, though. That was his shortstop year. He moved off a shortstop after that.
He's done 6. So we're talking 270 batting average, 35 bombs. That's respect. Got to tip the cap. 30 plus home runs. I'm tipping the cap. That's general rule of thumb there. But 85 RBIs. Yeah, I mean that's solid. I guess the best, if I'm looking at best year for JJ Hardy, 2011 with Baltimore. That's the most 30 home runs, 80 RBIs, 269 average. So I mean, you're splitting hairs there.
That's not bad for Hardy though, because he wasn't much of he didn't possess the home run power. I thought Bill Hall was more of a bopper. Right.
And to be honest, when I was growing up, I always kind of emulate, like my batting stance was kind of JJ Hardy's batting. So there's like some ties there, some like literally childhood memories. Like, so that shouldn't play into it, but it does. It's a little biased. There's a little bias there. Bill Hall, like I said, no all-star, like JJ Hardy, 2-time all-star, 3-time Gold Glove, and a Silver Slugger. So I got to lean just with very similar, like, by the end of their careers, Hardy's a 256 hitter. Hall's a 248. Hall down on home runs compared to Hardy, 125 to Hall. JJ Hardy, 188, so almost 200. I'll take JJ Hardy there just based on the cumulative. Like in one season, yeah, I'd probably take like best season compared to best season. Hall, you got that, but cumulative. Like I always thought JJ Hardy was not the fastest guy. He's kind of like I shouldn't say he's like Jeter. That's probably insane, but like not the fastest or athletic guy, but he like for the balls he could get to. I hardly ever saw a guy make an error. So there's your 3-time Gold Gloves.
Yep. No, I mean, yeah, like Kyle was saying, like you were saying there, it's the Adames one was a little bit easier, and then you got to Bill Hall and JJ Hardy, and it was like, oof, like this is close. Like you could go either way, and you're still fine. You're still fine. So, I mean, that's about all I got. Anything you guys got to wrap it up here for the day? Let them know where to find you. Let them know where to find you out there.
Yeah, I mean, find me on Integrity Sports Network. You can find me on my channel, Chompin at the Bit. That's basically anywhere you, I guess, listen or watch your stuff. I'm probably on that platform.
Yeah, same here on Spotify at Brutally Honest Sports. I'm usually using Twitter at Brutally Honest, no T on the end of that. But as always, fun time on the Wisconsin Sports on the Go side of things.
It gets a little crazy here in the state of Wisconsin, especially after 11. It gets a little crazy around here. No beers, though. No beers. It's a work day. Can't not work night. I mean, gotta get to bed. Get to bed there. So with that, that's about all we got for today. It was a great show. Like I always tell you guys, like, subscribe, follow it on Instagram, Facebook, wherever you can. Social media, wherever you find it on social media, search Wisconsin Sports on the Go. You'll find me there. Always throwing random stuff out there. You gotta sometimes. But with that, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trag. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. But until I talk to you guys again tomorrow, deuces.
Yeah, oh my Lord, watch me sway. Darkness falls and we all pray, hoping for the light of day. Down to the river, I have held the devil's hand, felt the weight of my own sin.